Hey guys, welcome back. So now with continuing our talks on Dark Knight's death metal, and also seeing the following process with the final Bruce Wayne, it really has me thinking about at least 3 possibilities on how the Batman Who Laughs may have acquired or assembled that body, which once again I believe should have been told in Generation 0, but as we go deeper into our talk, we'll get back to that. But first, if you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to catch the spills every week, and don't forget to hit that bell up top so we can squat up in the comments for the first hour. Alright, so jumping right back in to where we had seen Diana go down in the Tartarus pit to get information from this mysterious prisoner who then she had discovered was Wally West, who I believed had his power drained in the creation of the final Bruce Wayne, but we'll get into more of that in just a little bit. But after this had happened and Diana effectively killed the Batman Who Laughs, immediately Diana left with Wally and Swamp Thing to make their way to the Valhalla Cemetery. But at this point, keep in mind, like we talked about in the last couple videos, in this new world you have Nightmare Batman patrolling the place left and right. And while Diana is making her way to the Valhalla Cemetery, we then come across one of your Nightmare Batman Ray Palmer Adam variants, and I don't know why I wanted to say Arnold Palmer. Like, this guy don't play golf, and he's not sweet tea mixed with lemonade. But then again, that is an amalgam. But what's crazy is that he's shrunk down here and he's doing his patrol in the disguise of a gecko. Which, shout out to Scott Snyder, is a really cool concept, but it's over just like that because he gets ran over by the Batmobile. And it's kind of crazy because the way they caught him off guard, he was trying to call back into the Batman Who Laughs, but of course the Batman Who Laughs ain't answering because Diana cut him up into little bite-sized pieces. But here's the thing, because in the case of the Batmobile, who's not explicitly helping Diana in this case, because with Batmobile, who's like your highly intelligent machine that rose to the top of dominance in his world in the dark multiverse, but here his functionality has been limited to where he can only speak and compute, but others can use him as transportation and weaponry. But it's here where Diana takes him to what appears to be a regular cemetery, but within this cemetery there's a doorway which leads to the Valhalla Cemetery, which is also known as the Crypt of Heroes, which prior to this point Wally West had known nothing about, which is pretty huge, especially for this version of Wally West, even though at this point he's been drained of his power. And that's one of the things that's pretty big here, because when we recently talked about Flash Forward, which also had a little bit of Generation 0, which I guess made that video a Flash Forward big spill with the Generation 0 drip at the end. But at the time when we talked about Wally getting to see things as Dr. Manhattan did, and on top of that also having the knowledge of the Mobius chair, because of this crazy spell even this information was hidden from him, and mainly because this Valhalla Cemetery, it needed to be protected with it being the final resting place of many dead heroes. But also for this cemetery it has a rotation of guards who protect this place at any given time, and that's what they run into when they get here when they're attacked by a Green Lantern Cerberus construct. But when this happens, Wonder Woman's like, don't even worry about it, it's light work, and she just rips that thing in half because she's just so violent. Goodness. But also, when this happens, we're then met by the Justice Society of America, who are now back post Doomsday Clock, but also as a product of the war between Doom and Justice, which now has them back in the present after the separation of their timeline. But here, with the timeline having come back together, they're the age that they would have been had they been here the whole time, which is also something that Wally West had seen within that Generation 0 snippet when he had discovered alternate timelines existing and then not existing, but then after that both existing together. And at the time this wasn't only specifically for the Justice Society of America, but rather for every crisis that had ever happened. But it's here that we see within the Valhalla Cemetery that this is more or less Batman's new Batcave, or at least where he's working at for the moment to stay undetected. And it's really clutch that Diana told him about this place, especially with him having a Black Lantern ring, because essentially he can use any dead hero ever and raise them back up in order to fight on his side. But when Diana gets here, Bruce lets her know that that's no longer the plan, and mainly because since she killed the Batman Who Laughs, Bruce no longer has any idea of what he's up against. And it's like now, regardless of how good his previous plan was, its effectiveness has now been annulled because the part that was the Batman Who Laughs, who Bruce Wayne knew, it is now something completely different entirely, which to Bruce's knowledge at this moment could be anything. So it's like, how do you reverse engineer a strategy from the unknown? And though at this point Bruce doesn't know the specifics of what the Batman Who Laughs is up to, he does know from Dark Knight's Metal and from the Batman Who Laughs miniseries that the Batman Who Laughs isn't taken out that easy, and with Diana killing him it's because he allowed it, and with Diana doing what she did, it's much like the heroes falling into the same trap, which at the time seemed like a win, but ultimately led to the heroes destroying the Source Wall and freeing Perpetua. But essentially this leads to Bruce telling Diana like, okay, well since you made my last plan garbage, tell me you got another one. And from here for Diana is pretty straightforward. because she suggests that they keep Wally here and then go to the Sun Prison New Apocalypse and free the rest of the heroes, and then after that go to the Dark Multiverse and steal the Crisis energy, which the Batman Who Laughs has been given to Perpetua, and then bring that back to Wally so he can fix the universe. And it really feels like Bruce is like, oh yeah, that's a great idea, like why didn't I think of that? Because practically Diana's plan is what they obviously need to do, but obviously breaking into a Sun Prison which is guarded by Superman, that's not necessarily a plan you just brush over. But it's here where Jay Garrick calls for Barry Allen, who at this time has been hiding from the Batman Who Laughs, but also trying to use the Speed Force to go back in time and fix this. But with doing so, Scott Snyder said nope, not gonna have it that easy, because it's here where we find out the Speed Force has been burnt out. But from here, jumping over to Castle Bat and picking up with the final Bruce Wayne, which essentially is your Bruce Wayne body imbued with the power of Dr. Manhattan that is now being given the brain of the late Batman Who Laughs. And this is being done by 3 versions of Alfred, who are also referred to as the Alfreds, but with doing this they're executing the final request of the Batman Who Laughs. And also here at Castle Bat we have your Sorcerer Batman with your Nightmare Batman Beyond, and in addition to that, Dino Batman, who in his case is still on that never-ending quest to get some respect put on his name. But in the case of the Alfreds, putting the Batman Who Laughs brain inside of this body, it's really had me thinking of a few ways that this body may have came about, because obviously this isn't your one-to-one Dr. Manhattan body. Which then brings me to 3 and possibly 4 ideas to how this could be. And with that, I'm thinking 1, this is a Bruce Wayne from the Dark Multiverse who had become Dr. Manhattan, and the Batman Who Laughs drained his power by unbalancing his Crisis energy. And with that as my first thought, I know it's a bit rocky, but I just wanted to put it out there. But then secondly, I was thinking, what if this is one of the byproducts of much of the research what the Batman Who Laughs had done back in the Batman Who Laughs miniseries, when he had taken all of those Bruce Waynes from different parts of the multiverse, to where from that research, he had then figured out a way to construct a body which could harness that positive Crisis energy, and he had used that to create this body. And this then takes me into the next 2 possibilities, which once again, none of this speculation is certain, and real quick I'm just sharing some of my thoughts. But going into my third idea, this is mainly because we're missing much of what Generation Zero was supposed to be, which originally was supposed to be what happened after the war between Doom and Justice when the Justice League walked through that blue door, which would then likely would have had the Justice League meeting with Wally West after the conclusion of Flash Forward, with Wally West setting out to fix the multiverse, but then also both of those series meeting up with Arisen, to where the Batman Who Laughs and Perpetua had teamed up to bring us to the ultimate battle between Crisis energies. But as of this point, we haven't gotten that full story. But with that then leading into Death Metal, we know obviously the hero's lost. But with the mentions of this source of positive Crisis energy from the Dark Multiverse, which Wonder Woman mentioned that they need to get in order to power back up Wally West. But with this positive Crisis energy which is coming from the Dark Multiverse, which again is the same as your energy from Dr. Manhattan, but it's likely that this is all coming from the Mobius chair. Because if you guys remember, back when we talked about Flash Forward, we discovered that Wally had already been changed by Dr. Manhattan, which is something that then Wally had remembered when he first touched the chair before he sat in it, and he became unmoored, which at the time really just primed him to be ready to sit in the chair, because before that the information was in his mind, but his mind just wasn't ready. But all in all, he didn't come into that power until he sat into the Mobius chair, which then transformed that Wally West into what you guys like to call down in the comments during Squad Hour, Dr. West Manhattan. But I believe that it's likely that the Batman Who Laughs had somehow separated Wally from this chair and then used the energies from the chair in order to construct the final Bruce Wayne. And I lean to that idea a bit more because once the Batman Who Laughs gets into this body, his first words are pretty much the same as Wally West when Wally had sat in the Mobius chair, because the Batman Who Laughs tells everyone here at Castle Bat that he's become something new and that there's nothing like him. And aside from that, like, my fourth idea is just that he tricked Wally into getting out of the chair, and after capturing Wally West, he then figured out what Dr. Manhattan had changed about Wally West that allowed him to be able to harness this power, and then he practically copied and pasted that into an alternate Bruce Wayne. But like I said, once again, none of this is for sure, we don't know, and more of those details we'll just have to figure out later on. But with the Batman Who Laughs taking on this power, he still isn't yet at 100%. But when he rises here within the final Bruce Wayne body, this shift in Crisis energy immediately gets the attention of Perpetua, and right away she checks with the Batman Who Laughs like, what was that? Like 2 eyeballs just pop up like, what was that? And the Batman Who Laughs lets her know that that was him, things are under control, and that she has nothing to worry about, aside from him stabbing her in the back. But nah, he's like, everything's good here, what's happening on your end? And for her, she's like, oh man, it ain't nothing, just busting down the multiverse. Just destroying these worlds, Earth 30 about to be donezo. But right after the Batman Who Laughs hops off a FaceTime with Perpetua, he hits everyone else in the room except for one of the Robins, but everyone else gets the Rorschach treatment. Like they're all Manhattan style exploded. But it's here one of the Robins lets the Batman Who Laughs in on a secret, to where in this moment we don't know specifically what the Robin said, but he does let him know that he'll use him as an ally and make him King Robin. And also because during this time where he's not at full energy, he needs an ally he can rely on, because already he can partially see that Wonder Woman has a plan to recreate the multiverse, which is also what he wants to betray Perpetua and do. So at this point, he has to beat Wonder Woman to it. And it's kind of funny when you think about it, because the Batman Who Laughs is like, man, I'm about to stab Perpetua in the back. But to do so, I need people beside me who are unwaveringly loyal, which is why he Rorschached all the others. But it's kind of messed up because it's like, dude, I was really looking forward to getting some backstory from your dark multiverse Batman Beyond. But as of now, that guy's no longer Batman, he's just Beyond. But after this, the Batman Who Laughs, he changes again into his new form, which in this case is the fullness of this new transition. And with doing so, he then tells King Robin that he'll now be referred to as the Darkest Knight, which looks like the Chaos King of the DC multiverse. But so now after this, I now want to kind of zoom out and look at the full scope of where things are in this world, and then get back to the heroes as they take their first steps in finding a solution. Because from here, leaving from Castle Bat, which is the size of a continent, like talk about stunting on the DCU, goodness. But leaving from here and looking at the map, we get a better idea of where Themyscira is located, which in death metal is like your hell prison, mainly suited for villains, but then also you have your Megapocalypse, which is one location tied to this new Superman that we'll see soon. But even still, this is separate from your new Apocalypse, which is your sun prison that holds the heroes. But also on the other end, you have your portion that's divided between the fall of Captain Atom, which we'll likely get into later, but then you have the northern portion, which is the Arkham Wastelands. And like we talked about, the Arkham Wastelands are run by Harley Quinn, and when we head over there, we see that the heroes are heading to a bunker, which Batman has hidden a few toys, if you will, in order to help them out. But it's here where we get a bit of a confirmation that Harley Quinn, she's helping them out with this being her territory, and it's like Bruce tells them he has a bunker there, hidden underground, but Harley didn't even know. And they're almost stopped before they make their way in, but Harley's giant mutant hyena eliminates that threat rather quickly. But what we come to find out, like within this secret bunker, which Bruce Wayne had put together sometime between the conclusion of Dark Knight's Metal and the beginning of Batman Superman the Infected, but within this bunker it houses different machines which were created by the Toy Master. And because the Toy Master is like the hot toy manufacturing champion, he had built replicas of the Nightmare Batman, of which after Dark Knight's Metal, Bruce Wayne had confiscated. And now he can fully control in order for them to fight along his side. And when we see this, like we're given the insinuation that these are just like the tip of the iceberg, because in addition to these guys in this bunker, and much like what we had seen in Dark Knight's Metal issue 1, where we had like your Justice League Megazord, but here very similarly in Death Metal, in this bunker we have your Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman Megazord, which from here they'll use as their transportation to head to New Apocalypse and get into step 1 with saving the heroes. But so now real quick, before we go, I want to talk about Darkest Knight real quick, because just a moment ago I tweeted out that I believe that the Batman Who Laughs, like he is messed up. And just to be a bit more specific about what I meant, this version of the Batman Who Laughs, he's a byproduct of having died in order to become this all-powerful version called the Darkest Knight, which technically makes him undead. And with saying that, I wouldn't be surprised if Batman with a Black Lantern ring doesn't find a way to take advantage of that, especially with him sending Lobo to this planet, which is also made of a similar material to the Black Lantern ring, and that on top of whatever Lobo dug up over there. But that's it, just want to add my 2 cents on that. Like anything could happen from here, like literally anything. But so now before we go, I want to give a special shout out to all the Patreons. Thank you guys for all of your support, and for anyone who's new here and wants more information on how to support the channel, I got a link down below to where you can head to patreon.com/Dopespill. But from here, let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, and on top of that, like give me all your what would Batman do as far as plans, like once he discovers what has happened with the Batman Who Laughs, because I'm pretty curious to see what you guys think. But that'll do it for this one, guys. Let me know your thoughts down below, and we'll do it again in the next one. Alright, later.